Okay guys, I'm ready to start spraying candy on the piece. It's probably really hard for you guys to see what's going on, but I uncover sections of the mask, especially on all the thin areas. Like this section is uncovered. As you can see, I already start testing my paint here. I uncover also the end of the tail, the side fins in here and here. So this will be pretty much only colorizing, because candy will allow us to show all the shading and highlights that are already made when I etch the metal. So I have here a blue violet, ultraviolet color, but this is not candy. This is actually a illustration color. Why I'm spraying the illustration and not the candy? Because what I'm doing now is shading. I need to have the darkest areas covered, and it's easy to do it with an illustration, which is reduced anyway, so it has some level of transparency. But after that, I will go directly use with the candy. So my paint is here, but to do even a little darker, I will add a drop of black. So that way it darken up a little bit more, even especially on the edges. I will spray some right now with juice out of the bottle with a little bit of reduction, you know. So remember, pretty much any color, like illustration color, you can go very transparent, you know, like this blending that I'm doing here, but you can also go dark if you wish. So all depends, you know, how much you press your trigger, how much paint you let it out. So, but this is great. So what I'm doing now, or what I will do now, is concentrate on the edges. If you see this edge right here is darker than the tips of it, but it's also some movement and direction. So I need to play around with, you know. So for example here, I can go and start doing some shading, some shading in this direction, which is great. It's looking good, but it's not dark enough. So what I'll do is I grab my Wicked Opaque Black, this is the new formula, and I will add just one drop. That's all I need. One drop, that's enough to have it, just a touch of darkness on the color. So that make it just easy for me to be able to shade. So what I'll do now is I test. Of course, the first colors is coming is the blue or the violet, and eventually it's getting darker. As you can see now, it's dark because that touch of black. So now it'll be easy for me to start shading. So I will start shading with dagger strokes from the edge to the inside, okay? So all I'm doing is just following this look and the direction of it. Right now it's just not much definition, but only shading. But the cool thing about it is that I can build up effects. For example, right there, I will use my 15 years old stencil, handmade it, that works perfect for everything. Check it out. I will just place it here, and I will make this shade. This will divide this section of this fin, that this fin goes on top of the other one, and then I just find another curve that matches and goes, okay? Same thing happened with the next one. Now I will move to another section, and spray only the edge, only the edge. So that way I'm dividing the areas, right? So like, for example, here, I think it needs something similar. And it gives me the effect that which one is behind of the other one. So with this in mind, I'm, check it out. I always have a curve that I can use with this stencil. I don't know how this happens, but this is awesome. Here, this is another fin, which is actually this one right here. I will just shade this corner, okay? Probably, I don't know if the camera can catch it, but it's still transparency right there, so you can still see some of the lines. And this is not candy, this is just illustration paint. But check it out, only the edge and a little bit, so I don't go heavy, it's just a touch. Why? Because I'm coming now freehand with a little bit of stencil work too, but let me now work on the shading. For example, let's work on this one. Remember, I have masked the background, so I have not to worry about it. And I start doing some lines for just to give movement and direction, okay? But basically the artwork is done by the edge metal that I did earlier. I will use this stencil just to add some texture. And this is called coral. And check it out. Use a pass, not too hard, just enough going in the same direction. It helps to give, you know, in the mood of it. So I will do longer dagger strokes, you know. This is still very translucent, very transparent. And this is not candy yet. What happened is the candy will do pretty much the same, but I need to either do many passes or I need to concentrate a little bit too much. So the illustration paint is kind of a good foundation for that. If you see, I'm just doing dagger strokes, blending with it, give the mood, but not covering too much. Okay, on top of this I will spray some other colors, but you know what? I will add also a little bit of texture right here. So, and this, when I designed this stencil, this is from the third series for Art Tool, and it's called Coral, because it gives me the illusion of coral. But when I design it, I keep in mind the all different areas. And I have, in just one movement, I can go from tight to wide and change the direction. It's really easy, and I think it works perfect for projects like this. Of course, there are many techniques to apply, but I think this way is start looking good. So, same thing I will do with this one. Okay, start darker where it starts the fin. Okay, dagger strokes, just because that's the nature of the fin, you know. I will apply also some tealicious color, some Caribbean blue, you know, and I just let the ground metal kind of speak for itself, you know. So, as you guys can see, it's a long way to go, but this gives you an idea of the process of it. So, see you in a little bit. Okay, guys, as you see, I've been keep going with this. And I just like to demonstrate a little bit how I'm doing this. Is in this fin, I'm just using the same color as I showed you before. Here are some blendings, you know, just to grab the direction, you know. But what makes it is interesting is if I add a little bit of texture. So I'm using the Texture Effects mini shield and just spraying this on the edge. Using only the edges to create this effect is really easy and simple, but it creates an amazing touch. So, you know, are some of those details that make every piece more interesting. So, it's almost done, so I will move right to the next color, all right? Okay, the base color on the fins are done, as I explained earlier. This is only a illustration color. Actually, is ultraviolet, ultraviolet, I think, with a touch of, with a drop of black, just to make it darker, but it's still translucent, so you can see through. Now I will colorize all these areas, not everything, but only some of them, with a candy. I'm using Tealicious, you know, which is 4666. It's an awesome color, kind of a teal aqua color, which will be perfect blend. I will not go all over, just a blending, so it shows the reflection of the effect, and then I will let it go. So here is my color, and as you can see, it's very soft, so it will just colorize this, and the blending will be perfect. I will almost not touch on the top because I want very, very transparent on the edges. So we'll have a contrast between, you know, the area where the fins starts and where it ends. So it will pops out against the color background, okay? Remember, I have this mask, so I know it looks dull finish right now, but this will be awesome at the end. So just spraying, chill, just blending with the previous color. I'm actually not doing any detailed strokes or so, because pretty much the artwork has been made with the ground metal. I spent good time doing that, but it was worth it because it will reflect the candy the way we needed to show it, you know. Okay, so it's a transition color in between. I will go the same way here in this thing right here. I'm actually spraying right on top of the other color and just make a mist on the rest. Okay guys, we are ready for the next step. I still need to do highlights and few touches on the fins, but now I will work on the body. This is how I do it. I will do always the shading, the darkest areas, because the rest will be blended. So I will use deep purple, which is candy color, of course, Candy 2.0, and is the 4859 color, deep purple, with I'm using transparent base, but just because it's application with airbrush. But other way, I can always use the UVLS clear, you know, 4050, which works exactly the same, but for, in this case, I'm using the transparent base. Remember, the candy needs some additives to make it, be sure that it fixes on the surface. So, okay, what I will do is create shading, and I will explain a little bit here. If you see this is the underbody, okay? This is part of her on the far away view, but I need to define edges. For example, this part of the body, which is far away, needs to be shaded. So I lift the mask in this area to shade that. I'm not shade the whole thing, only the edges mainly. Then I will do for the edges in this area. So I will use deep purple and then blend it with the magenta and blue. So it will be very interesting. So this area is already gone on the mask. So I will just spray always slightly. What I need only is to go soft. Never go too dark. It's better to go slow and build up your shades as you go. So I can see the intensity of the candy on top of the ground metal. But this is dark enough for me just to define this section. I will go over here and start giving a little bit of shape right there. Okay, so not much, but this is good enough for me to make the next step. The next step will be to peel off this section, which has been masked. If you see it, I take this piece, but this is already defined. So now what I will do, since the mask is too big and I'm doing this in section, I have a half cut on this mask. And I will explain that. I say half cut because this has been cut only until this point, not all the way in, because I need to take later on the whole mask of the tail. But doing that, I'm able to make this edge, which will separate the back of the tail with this piece on the foreground. So, in other words, all I do is just lift it. I hope my hand is not on the way. Let me do something. I will use a piece of tape just to hold it. There you go. So this is the mask, and I will concentrate on the edge. Again, very slow. The beauty of the candy is that you can see the layers you are doing and how much the reflection is showing. So even a little bit of it is probably enough to indicate the edge that I need. So for example, this area right there, you know, is important for me to make it. So what I'll do is I will use my old stencil that for some reason always fit the curve or the area that I need. I will dark it up, just defining the edge, but then I make it loose, so then it blends. Okay, so this works perfect for what I need. Now I go down here. Remember, I will blend this with magenta and then blue. So it will be very interesting effect. Darken up this area, which is very dark in this section right here, but I still need the reflection light which goes in this section. So just increase the depth on the edge, and now I'm ready to peel off the rest of the mask so you guys can see the definition on the line. Here is the mask coming off. Okay, so you guys can see this line, it already gives me the depth that I need, and I just need to peel off the rest of it. So now it looks as a complete mask off, you know. and I'll be able to start shading that part, which is easy because if you see the roundness on the tail here, the shade goes onto this side, but I still need to leave a little bit of light in here. So what I'll do is I just kind of continue the blending I have here and then go back, but not going all the way in, just touching this area. And just this is enough to indicate the curve on the shape. Of course, we do it slowly so we can build up our shade. That's the beauty and the magic of candies, you know. We can see through, are so easy to apply. The possibilities are endless. And if you see, I have not to do much about detail because all the detail and is already on the artwork. So, well, this is just the beginning of giving shape of this part. So I will keep going. I will add more shade, more definition, and then skip with the next color. Okay? Okay, so now I complete the shading with deep purple color, which is awesome. I make some definition and texture in it. So what I will do now is I will spray some sunset magenta. The sunset magenta will be only in some areas. I'm considering that the main line source is coming from this point. It has a touch of yellow, you know, but the magenta will be a transition color. So I will add a magenta in the areas that has to do with a little bit of the reflection. And in the other side, I will blend it with blue tones. So in order to do that, I will just spray some magenta very lightly, actually, and not covering everything, just only shading, for example, this side, you know, considering that I will spray some, probably a touch of orange and maybe a touch of yellow, just to give that warm look in this section of the tail. Also, I will do it on the bottom. It's just like the blending transition color. Okay. And also on the top of this area right here. It's only a touch, not really that much, but it will help on when I switch the color. Later on, I intensify a little bit on the middle. And I think that's it for Sunset Magenta. Now I will go with the Caribe Blue on the other side and then a touch of yellow and orange maybe on this other side. Okay? Okay, after the deep purple that we added, I will add now the grabber orange. I would like to take the time to explain a little bit how I mix the colors in my cup. First thing I need to consider that I need at least 2 or 3 important, let's say, the additive, the paint, and maybe a reducer. All depends, the reducer will depend the viscosity that you have and the area that you're gonna spray. So you don't really need to use it every single time. But in my case, I start by using, in this case, the additive, you know, which is the transparent base, 4004. But like I said before, can be 4050 also. But this, I will say, is like 60% of additive. I will say maybe 40% of the candy, but it can vary, it depends on the intensity that I want, but usually only a few drops. That's what I need to colorize the piece that I'm doing. And just to improve the flow, I add 4011. 4011 is our, let's say, universal reducer for most of the applications, and it works fantastic. So that's the way I make it. And now it's just ready to go. Remember, I will spray here on the side so you guys can see. I can go very, very light, that is almost not noticeable, but I can go very deep too if I want to. So it really depends the amount of paint that you spray, you know, how much paint you let it go. And this time will be just a mist. It's just a mist, especially on this side that goes near or on the direction of the light source. So in this case, I will just spray it lightly here in this side. So it blends with the magenta color that I sprayed earlier, you know. So the magenta was like the transition color from between the purple and this orange. Now I will do the same thing on this edge, okay. I go slow and build up as I need it. If I need to be more intense with it, I will do it. Also, if you can see, it's a little bit more warm color in this area, so I will do exactly the same thing here. I will do it only in this section, okay? And I let it blend with the other. So it's beautiful when you see some candies blend together. Of course, if you handle, you know, in a distance, so the blending is kind of seamless, you know, and it gives a great touch. So this is what I will do with it. Maybe I'll just touch it here on the top. Okay, I will go then with a touch of tequila yellow, just almost nothing, and then the blue on top. So, and that will make most of the color on the tail and the fins. I will come back later on with fine highlights, but that's the way we're building up. Okay, now next step is the tequila yellow color. And I was explaining about how I mix my colors. I will do just right in front of you. I have an empty cup, but I didn't clean it up. The reason why, because maybe I have a little residue of the grabber orange, but since the transition will go from the orange to the yellow, is really no need to clean the cup. Actually, it will blend better if I do it. So all I do is just a little bit of the additive, you know, let's say that much, which is probably, it's gonna be like 60% probably of my paint. I will use now tequila yellow, which is 4652, and I will add only a few drops. For me, this is just enough. So I have the additive, and then I have the color, the candy, and I will do 4011 only to improve the flow. It may be no needed, but I will really like to go on the transparent side. So, and I never add more than 10%. Usually this is not to over reduce, only to improve the flow on paint. And how I mix it, many ways, but for me it's effective to use bubble up. I use a rag or a piece of paper, you know, like towel paper, soft towel paper. So I bubble up. When I bubble, it really mixes well, you know. But if you have, many people says, don't do it because your paint will go back into the needle, but if your airbrush is in good conditions and if you have a good airbrush, you never have to worry about that. So you can see the intensity of the yellow, but I will do just a very light mist just to complement the orange that I sprayed before. So I don't expect to have it very bright. It's only a touch to give some light. It's very subtle, very minimum. Remember, it is up to you how intense you want to apply your color. This is just a touch, transition color, just to match what I have on the background, so it will be a great balance, and I love the way it looks. So now I will do same thing on this edge. Look at the distance that I'm working. I'm not working this close because if I do it this close, will be very intense. I need to go kind of a far away, but direct only on the areas that I need it, okay? Of course, I can later do some adjustments, some darker or some no lighter, because that's the lighter I can go, but I'm considering also all the reflection effect that we have in the ground metal. So spraying this light and with this contrast, it will give us absolutely awesome reflection, and we can appreciate the beauty of the candy. Believe me, Candy 2.0 is so versatile. You can use it many ways, and I mix it with illustration color. I mix it with everything, you know. It's sometimes I do a full illustration with opaques and illustration colors, but to enhance the colors, I add candy. I can spray yellow candy on top of a yellow illustration just to enhance the color, and it makes it alive. So this is one of many ways of doing, but it's awesome. And by the way, since I'm doing this, I will add, remember, this is not cover, so I will add a touch of this yellow here, just on the edge, so that way it will have a hint of this brightness, okay? Maybe in some of them. Almost invisible, but this important touch to have it, okay? So I will go with blue color here, mist on the fins, and I guess we'll be ready on the body. Okay guys, next color is Caribe Blue, one of my very favorite colors. The prepping is pretty much the same, you know, the additive, then the color, and then just a touch of reducer, just improving flow. Okay, so my color is ready. Let me have just a cup right there, and I will spray very lightly also, but this time I will concentrate in the opposite side. So because this is very nice, but it's a little too bright and it needs a touch of color. So my blue, remember, always you can do as intense as you want. This is very light, but you can also do very dark. So be careful with the distance and the amount of paint you're spraying, okay? So, and all I do is just a mist of color on this side. If you see it, the direction I'm spraying from this point out. I'm not spraying in this direction because I don't like to dust the area that I just paint with the yellow. So if I spray in this direction, that's soft, it will make it will work awesome. Okay. Only in this side, okay. Blend it with the existing edge, and I also will go on the fins. I will do just minimum on the tips. Concentrate more on the base. I can do some kind of a dagger strokes just to go with the direction of it. And almost nothing on the tips. Okay. Of course, you can do the way you like it, but that's the way I think it looks nice for me. The beauty of the candy is that every single texture that I did previously remains there and you can see through. That's what makes the difference between spraying with candy and sometimes solids, you know. It's a beauty on every single technique, but when you use candies, you can make layers and do many different effects. So I even will do a little bit of, I have some texture there with the previous color, but I will add some other ones with my stencil just by spraying in the direction, and the texture is kind of appears by magic. It really depends on which direction you spray it. So like I will choose small areas, you know, for this section right here, okay, and I will spray in this direction. So, and that's how my textures appear in that area. It's effortless and it's an awesome effect that you can add. Well, of course, these are texture effects stencils that I designed myself, but I really enjoy it. Okay, have that blue touch. I will just add a little bit to complement, and in this area I will do exactly the same. The opposite side, you know, of the warm color. Same thing in these fins. And I also will add it on this one. The true effect will show when this is going to be clear coated, and I know it will be awesome. Okay. Now I'm increasing the intensity to have a better contrast, and I'm so happy with the result. In this area, I will do it only a mist because this needs to blend with the body of her, but I still have a mask. Actually, I will lift it. I want you to see it, what's going on, because I cut it until this point, but I need to blend. Okay, so I actually gonna take this piece off the mask so I can spray and blend a little bit here. So I don't like to increase. But if you notice here, I have a brighter spot in this area. So I tried not to cover much in that section. So the silver color of the aluminum, the ground aluminum, is still showing there, so it's not as intense. But as you can see, I'm blending with the magenta that I have it earlier, and it just looks beautiful. Okay, so I will unmask this area to work on the body, and we are getting closer.